Welcome to the Book of Balance podcast, where real stories meet real numbers. I'm your host, Patricia Oholeguy, your bookkeeper and believer that business should serve your life, not consume it. Each week, we sit down with entrepreneurs who've built their dreams from scratch and learned to balance their books, their boundaries, and their energy along the way. Ready to turn the page on financial stress and write your own story of clarity? Let's dive in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Patricia Oholeguy, and I am your host for the Book of Balance podcast. And today I have Gus Sainz, the owner of Maritime Watches. So, welcome. And if you could please start by sharing a little bit about you, what led you to decide to go into small business ownership, and what are the things that have made it such a great thing for you to do, and some of the ups and downs. So, people who are either in business or are thinking about running a business, they better have a better clear understanding of what is it all about to have your own business. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Patricia. I appreciate you having me on your podcast today. Actually, yeah, so a little bit about me. My name is Gus Sainz, and I'm actually a writer-producer. I work in here in California, but also visit Maryland often, where my residency is. And actually, one of the reasons that I started my small business was because the movie industry is a very fluctuating process. Sometimes you have a lot of projects, sometimes you don't. Sometimes income is really good, sometimes it's really low. And I've always had a flair and like I said, like a calling for designing for mechanical things, for stuff like that. I've always enjoyed engineering, and I've always enjoyed watches. So I started selling like used watches a long time ago, back in 2012, 2013. And then suddenly I decided, like, hey, Gus, you're so good at watches. Why don't you make your own brand? I thought, wow, that seems kind of a little bit daunting. That's a little bit complicated. But then through a friend of a friend, I got contact with some Swiss fabricators, which if you think it's hard to break into Hollywood, try to break into the Swiss watch business. They don't give you the time of day because it's extremely expensive and they want large orders. But anyway, I was able to kind of like, create a small design that was Swiss made. I had an original success with that. And then things kind of snowballed into what I later my company that was called the Human Time Project, which was kind of an offshoot of Tom Shoes. I don't know if you ever heard of Tom Shoes, but
Yes.
they kind of started selling shoes. And for every shoe that was bought, another one was donated to a child in need. And I took the same concept with Human Time Project. Every time I sold the watch, I donated one to a medical worker in a developing country. And I was able to hook up with Helping International, and they were able
Oh,
to
wow.
donate over 800 watches in the course of the span. But anyway, long story short, I was able to find this little creative niche of like, having a small business and something that creates a complementary income to what I'm doing right now. Then I got really busy with my movies. I have the Prey Legend of Carnoctus, which is right now on Tubi if you want to check it out and
Okay.
watch it right now.
We can
But
definitely put
then
those links on our show notes.
okay, I would appreciate it. Yeah, that's the movie. And I'm producing a couple more movies now, a Baby Racer, a racing movie, and then another action one. So, but in the meantime, I've always had the itch to get back into the watch business and design again. And then I decided, like, we really, there's plenty of watches, there's plenty of brands, there's plenty of stuff out there. But I was thinking we should have something that makes people have something that's affordable and exclusive. So what I was thinking about a term that I coined many years ago called affordable exclusivity, in which you have a watch that is under $150, but it is in limited production. So
Oh,
once we
wow.
make a run of 300, 400, or 500, that's it. We don't make them anymore until next year. And that's something that's really appealing to the public because if you look at the watch business and the luxury watch business, I mean, a Rolex Submariner, which is probably the most famous Rolex out there that every man desires to have, is around $10,000, and they make
Wow.
over 50 to 100,000 of those a year. So if
Wow.
you think about it, you're spending a lot of money on something that has a lot of prestige, but is it really physically exclusive? Not precisely. And the same thing with like Audemars Piguet or AP or like other brands, either like, and that's one of the rules that actually the French luxury industry has understand and has been taken to perfection. When you buy an Hermès bag or you buy a Louis Vuitton, I mean, they're limited production stuff. I mean, I think there's like a special bag from Hermès. I think it's called the Birkin. You can only get like 500 a year, and they're like 30, $40,000, and you have to be placed on a wait list. Even Jeff Bezos can't get one. Well, maybe he could. But the thing is, like, so the whole idea of scarcity is something that I really enjoyed. So I implemented that into my business model, and so far it has been very successful.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like you have created your own niche per se, right? Like you have looked at something that you're passionate about, which you're
Mhm,
telling me is watches.
mhm,
You have you were attracted obviously to the idea of limited edition, sounds like.
mhm.
And for that reason, you have decided to kind of combine these concept with what you love, which is watches, and you just make a limited run. You said at an affordable price. And so how do you make it work so that way is affordable to the customer and yet is still profitable for you? Like, was it hard for you to get the right connections to be able to get the right deals? Because I do
Well,
know that
when I
when you do
started with the
smaller
Swiss industry,
runs,
yeah.
you
Well, when
pay
I started
more.
with the Swiss made watches, it was a little bit hard to into the industry and find the right manufacturers. But then when I started manufacturing the watches in Asia, which every single one of the biggest myths of the watch industry is that it doesn't matter if you buy a Breitling, if you buy like a Movado, if you buy like an
Mhm.
expensive watch, like you buy probably what's another model, a Longines or something like that. All of them have small parts of the band or the clasp that are made in China. There's no way around it because they manufacture at really high quality. I mean, these iPhones that we're using right now, they're one of the top technology in the world, and they're made in China. The thing about China is that once there's a certain quality control, the product is really good. So the thing about it is that I was able to find so it's easy to find some manufacturers in Asia, but the problem is that which are the right manufacturers who do a good job. And that's where it takes a little bit of time to find the right supplier. Once you find the right supplier, then you basically you do like a small run of 40, 100, 200 watches. Then you basically test out the system, see how that works. And I've been working with one or two companies so far that have been really great quality, great reception. I mean, they reply to your emails very promptly. I mean, the Chinese have a really good business ethic for a lot of things. But I mean, this can be done with any other product. I mean, like say like you want to have you invented special mittens for your cat or whatever. You basically go onto these many websites like Made in China or whatever, and there's 50,000 companies that can do so. If you find a product that you like, probably it is probably being made for less money in China. So you can probably go there
Sadly,
and
that is
find something
the
there.
reality these days.
Yeah. So but again, it was always a trial and error. One time I had this one company, they didn't have this good a quality, but I bought a couple of them. I got stuck with some of these watches. I was able to fix them, resell them. But you live and learn. But once you find a quality supplier, you stick with it. But it's not that hard these days because now with the internet and interconnectivity
That's
and
true.
everything else,
We're
I
a
mean,
lot more global and it's much easier to get connections these days.
absolutely. I mean, like I can talk to my guy in the factory in Asia on my phone. And he can be showing me the watches, and I tell him, "Hey, listen, can you make the hand of the hour mark a little bit shorter? Can you make?" I send drawings back and forth. So there's a really good right now. I mean, there are no distances anymore in the world. So
That's very true. So you said that your first project of with watches was Human Time Project. Is that correct?
no, my first basically my first watch was a science design model, which was a Swiss model, which is a chronograph. And then my large company where I made it more of a business, where I scaled a little bit larger, was
Okay.
Human Time Project, in which I integrated that angle because that was probably like in the early 2013, 2014, where where like in the buy one, donate one phase was really popular. So I
Right.
implemented the whole thing. And
So
that's
you
when I
jumped
kind
in
of
the wagon for that. That's great.
exactly, yeah. And
So
then it was amazing because I connected with a couple of men's blogs, men's fashion blogs, and they posted my stuff, and the thing kind of blew up. So and that's another thing that is really hard for entrepreneurs, especially micro entrepreneurs like us, which is the marketing. Marketing is one of the hardest things to get out there because there's so many voices out there. Back in 2013, 2014, the blogosphere was very important, especially for men to make purchases. So I was lucky to have a couple of blogs post my product, and that was helping to boost me. Now a blog doesn't do anything. Everybody has a blog, whatever. And funny thing, the rage right now is TikTok shop. I mean,
that's very
I talk
true.
to
I'm not a TikTok girl,
everybody.
but
Where did you get
yesterday.
that? Oh, I got it on TikTok. What? Oh, what happened today? Oh, yeah, I read on the news on TikTok. What? I mean, like, it's going to rain. Oh, yeah, it's going to rain. Everybody's using TikTok and like in Instagram as a reference. So I think it should be kind of like, wise to investigate those angles. And actually, this is the first time I'm going to be involved with TikTok. I'm going to be having a
You're
TikTok
gonna
shop.
do a TikTok. Well, that's smart. I
Oh,
mean, you have to
absolutely. I'm
follow the
doing I'm doing a
trend.
TikTok shop for Maritime Watches, of course.
You have
Exactly.
to, okay, so we'll make sure that we also post that on the notes as well so people can go and follow. So this podcast is gonna air on the first week of December. So that'll be like the perfect time for people to look
Right.
into
If you're
what they
looking for
want.
something interesting, like a little Christmas gift or something that's
Yeah,
very unique.
that might work really well for people.
Yeah.
So um I'm really fascinated by this human time project. Are you still working on that project, or is that something that you have moved forward, or is was just like the fad was at that moment, and you have moved on to the next thing? And because this is your hobby, but it sounds like it's your side gig, and it's also your hobby, and it
Right.
sounds like you make different watches every year. So, how is that project still up and running, or what's going on
Well,
with?
actually, the Human Time Project, I let it kind of phase out a little bit because, like I said, once I got busy with my movie career back in 2017, 18, things got a little bit more complicated. I'm still in touch with Helps International. They're really great people. We might be doing something later on, but not in the guise of Human Time Project. Maybe I'll take one of my brands like Size Technique, this was actually the last model that I did before I started Maritime Project, which is like, this automatic watch that I did right now. This
Wow.
was something that I did a couple of years back. Also, again, limited production. And then Human Time Project is one of the stuff that we started like a long time ago, which is one of these models right here. This is one of our best sellers. It was like in
Okay.
the days when people wanted bigger watches. So those kind of moved around pretty well. But no, actually, it is dormant right now, Human Time Project. But at the same time, it's that one of the things that where I'm thinking maybe I might integrate that the buy one donate a plan maybe a little bit later.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. So then maybe people can keep an eye on that, and maybe you can let us know where we can find the next projects. Um, that way we can stay up to date. So for this year, what is currently the project that you are really focusing for this year? Because it sounds like this is like a seasonal thing for you, and you do it when you are not doing major filming, correct? So
Mhm, exactly.
um,
Yeah.
what project? I guess I just realized like this is perfect because if you only have a limited amount of time, because then you're gonna be going into another big project, doing limited runs makes sure that you're providing the customers what they need with the appropriate customer service. But then when you get busy, it's makes sense that you're kind of out of supply anyway, so you're kind of moving on to the next thing, which is filming. So that's actually a very wise way to supplement and also keep yourself busy because time, sometimes we need to stay busy with, between projects. So that's actually really smart.
Well, yeah,
So
the thing, what really happens is basically when you're in the middle of starting a movie project, like about to start a movie project now in December. So we have three phases in the film industry, which is called pre-production, physical production, and post-production. Pre-production is where basically when we go over the script, we over the whole elements, we go over the casting, we go over the locations, we go over the props, the costume, and basically getting everything prepared to start filming the movie. Then when we go into physical production, that's another month and a half, like about filming, going to the location, shooting every day with the actors, getting everything done. And then once
is
that is
that when they
done,
talk about you are like in the field like the whole day, right?
right, exactly. Yeah, I'm basically on set all day, making sure like this movie I will be directing. I already directed my first movie. I'm doing my second directorial debut on this other movie. But then yeah, there's all these things you're doing on set, filming, getting everything ready. And then once that is done, you go into the third and final phase, which is post-production, which also as a director you supervise because you supervise the editing, you supervise the color correction, you supervise the sound design. So there's so many things. But then the last part, there's a lot of people working on that part. So you have editors, you have colorists. So I don't have to be that super involved. So that's when I can kind of like, go into my
Step
watch
back a
phase,
little
as
bit.
I
Yeah.
say, and get into the designs. I mean, I'm already designing because I mean, when I come back from home, sometimes like, I'm still like on the computer doing small designs, this and that. The factory's making the watches. I mean, like they're all in production. But then at the end of the tail of the production where I have more time, that's when I can launch the website, do the social media, do all the small marketing, and then kind of do the whole phase around. And then again, like you said, limited production helps me get that amount quite around because the worst thing for a business owner is to have inventory and then not sell. It's like, you have all the stuff and it's not selling. So being a limited production, you're able to sell really fastly. There's a small little hint of success, a little win there that kind of gets you geared up. And then you pack everything up until you do the next production 6 months or a year later on. So that's
Wow,
how
that
I,
is such a different concept. It's not something that you hear. I mean, like I've been interviewing a lot of business owners, and no one has talked about it. And I'm thinking, even for other people who have different type of businesses or projects that they still want to maximize their returns because I mean, let's say you work on your hobby throughout the year. Maybe people have a different type of job. Maybe they have a 9 to 5, but they have this thing that they enjoy doing. But trying to keep the store open all year long can be daunting and it can be exhausting when you already have a full-time job and a family. But if you kind of collect your supply through the year and then you do like you said, just like a once a year or like once every 6 months or 3 months, whatever your supply is, but then you create this urge of you basically open the doors for a limited time. Is that what it sounds like? That sounds like a really great way to really create that you're
Well, it's a
creating.
supplemental thing, like, it
Right.
basically it helps you, like, get like I said, it even though
Like, you need to
maybe
have it
some
because it's gonna go out, it's gonna go off the market, I don't know, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or until while supplies last, and then it's literally there will not be any more supplies because, I mean, usually
exactly, and
you
that
hear
creates
that in a
a
lot of
sense of
companies, "Well,
scarcity.
supplies last," but then there's gonna be another run 3 months. But in this case, you don't know because it's a small business owner, and you don't know when this small business owner is gonna even have the time and availability to do the next batch, so it's not guaranteed. It's not like you have a whole supply chain system behind it that is going to guarantee delivery in 3 months, right?
Right.
So it kind of depends on each business owner and what their lifestyle is that is going to dictate when the next run will be, right? Like in your
Absolutely.
case, if you happen to have 3 projects back to back, sounds like you may not do anything for a while, right? That is just so interesting. So tell me specifically about your current project. Like tell me from A through Z with what's going on now. What is the hot thing that you're doing right now? I just think that this whole concept of temporary shop sounds like such a great idea for so many people who are considering to launch a business full time, but they're not quite sure how to do it. Well, this could be a great segue before you really launch yourself full time into entrepreneurship. I mean, in your case, your career is in filming. This is your hobby, but you're having a great time with it because it's also something you love is watches for what you're telling me.
Yeah, well, actually, the interesting thing about this concept is if you take it to a macro level, is that anybody with any type of company can use this sense of scarcity. For example, say like you have a small shop of different things, maybe like you do pottery or whatever. Do something limited edition for the holidays, like hey, for cat lovers, like have a little like whiskers with a Santa hat or something like that. Limited production, and so it creates a little bit of a scarcity, and you have something that can drive clients to your website. Say you have a service business or whatever, or say you're a contractor. Hey, like what, we're doing like holiday stair cleanups, for the holidays. I know it snows a lot in Maryland, so like we're going to do this like take advantage of our Christmas a stair cleanup special. And that, even though it's a small job, it creates interest, it creates relationship, it creates like follow up, and then that person who actually did a good job cleaning their stairs or whatever, they might call you like when their wall falls off or something like that,
That's true.
and different type of things. So you can use this little concept of scarcity. I like to call it like the holiday offer, or the holiday hook. It's like something you do closer to the holidays, or for Thanksgiving, or for Father's Day, or whatever. You do something that's small, that's limited, a special offer that hooks people in, but then also creates awareness to your business. In my case, I just do watches, and so what happening right now with Maritime Industries was that been working in the film like back to back for almost a year and a half, 2 years. I haven't done any watches. It's been kind of like itching
Oh,
in my
wow,
back. I
really?
need I need to get stuff out there. Yeah, because this I think like a science technique. This model that I did, I think was the last one I did, was like whoa, before COVID. It was like 2021 that I had these watches done. Anyway, so the thing is that it's been a while, so I decided to do. And now there's a really trend in the masculine, because the thing also that watch is very much a man thing. I mean, women wear watches, but I
It's
mean,
a
like
difference. We have our own style.
yeah, exactly. You guys have, and it has to be certain fashion and certain things. But guys, we love watches. We love watches. We like mechanical stuff. We love cars. I mean, it's kind of like in our genes. So there's a new trend of basically of what was called the field watch, which was basically a watch that was created by like different nations to have like some sort of minimalistic like time concept where people can have like when they go like especially during wartime or missions or stuff like that. It was something you wear it on the field, and that's a trend that kind of like came, and it was getting a little bit. So I decided, why do I? Because mostly these field watches, they only have like numbers on the on the
Okay.
face. And I said, well, if I can create something that had like, an aesthetic, basically like, like the watches that was made for like, the Department of Defense in the 1960s and the 1970s, but bring it up to date and put a calendar, a day and date, that's something you can wear to the office or wear every day. So you can kind of know exactly what day it is, what time it is, what's going on. So I added this little modern function onto the aesthetic of the ruggedness of the field watch. And I said, hey, this could be a really cool design. And I just basically kept it very small, very simple, very interesting. I mean, I'll be sending you photos later on of the products.
Oh, that will
But
be
I mean, it's
great.
something that I designed, and then I basically consulted with a group of friends and clients, and they really enjoyed the design. They gave me a couple of feedbacks on some of the markers. Because the funny thing is that on the inside you have like the numbers like 12, 3, 6, but on the outside you have military time, so you have 13, 14, 16 hours. So
Oh,
basically,
that is
so if you're
really
international
cool.
and they say like meet you at 18:30, like they say in South America, a las 18:30, that's 6:30. But the thing is that on the outside you can tell what that number is, so it has military time and normal time, but then on top of that it has a day and date function, so you're always know where
Connected.
you are.
Exactly. That's great. So
And
then,
the design is design is very simple, very elegant. We're going to be having like an all black tactical model. We're going to have a one with basically with silver, and then we're going to have our deluxe editions, which are going to be rose gold. So it gives it a little bit more elegance,
oh
also. So
wow.
something that you can wear, something that's very masculine but also very elegant. You can take it to the board meeting or out on a date with the wife or the girlfriend on a restaurant or a night out,
Oh,
whatever. So
they sound like a great Christmas present
yeah,
for me
and
for
the thing
last
about it
May.
also is I wanted to make sure that I had really good quality, so I wanted to make sure they were under $150.
Oh,
So the
really?
thing
So
about
they're
it is that I wanted to be, because I wanted to become an impulse buy. People see it and, hey, what, $150 is a dinner, like,
yeah,
so
really.
right, yeah, these days,
Without
come on.
dessert.
If you go out with two people, yeah, absolutely. If you go like a decent restaurant, you're talking 150. Anyway, but that's something like that. I wanted to make it very affordable, and something. And then sometimes people like to collect them. So basically, we have like 5 different models. So people sometimes they buy two or three because they want a
So
utility
that
one
was my
and they
other
want one to go
question.
out. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you say people collect them, so I'm assuming that means, do you have people that kind of are repeating customers? Because I mean,
Absolutely.
or
Absolutely. I actually started selling like recently on Whatnot, which is a brand new app, which is called Whatnot. And actually, it's QVC meets YouTube. You basically
okay.
go on there, you have like a little show, you start presenting. I mean, you have to be very lively, you have to entertain people, you have to create like a little vibe going on, but you can sell them. And basically, what I do is I'll go there only a very few times, and I go with special offers. For example, like, this watch is like, 140. I go there, hey, only for today. I want not $95. And I do a very small, like 15, 20 units, just to push them out there, have some fun. And people go crazy and they love it. So the thing about it is that, yes, I actually sometimes I sell out like 3 items from the same client because people want to have like, one for every day and one for the evening. And I mean, one for like for going out. So yeah, actually collectors do. And when
So
there is a
what I
smaller
was
price point,
curious about is because it sounds like you do projects like here and so do you have like a clientele of people that are waiting for the next batch to see what is that you're gonna come out with to see if they
actually, I do have a small, this is something that I should have done a little bit better. Or if you have like a list of clientele, keep your emails. Like sometimes, like, like 4 or 5 years, I dumped a bunch of emails. I didn't know what I was
oh
going to be doing.
no.
Yeah. So keep your list of emails, keep your clients. I have like, I actually have like a reserve on my Whatnot of people who basically are waiting for this new model to come out. Like, so we have like a reserve list because you can't pre-sell and whatnot, but they have basically like, an interest check, And so, but yeah, and actually I have like a small, like, list of like probably like, 100 people that bought my watches before. So I'm going to be emailing them also when this new watch comes out. But yeah, there are people that are repeat buyers because again, people who are in the watch collecting or in the watch hobby, they want something different. I mean, like, they want something like a little bit, and also it's always a conversation piece. I mean, you're hanging out with your friends and your buddies. Oh, is that a new watch? Blah, 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 blah. The conversation starts. You're in a party or whatever. Oh, I really like your watch. Blah, blah, blah. Conversation starts. I mean, like, even guys that are dating. I
Right,
mean,
and this is
women,
meant to
women,
be
women
something fun
take
for
notice
you,
of flashy
so
things,
so
So
you're
it's
not
like, oh, I
stressed.
like your watch.
Yeah, so it sounds like, like I like the fact that this is your hobby and you're really taking it from that vibe and that energy that, you're not being stressed like to produce 3,000 of anything, which requires storage and shipping and
And capital.
logistics and cap. Yeah, that's very true. You need to have a lot of capital available. So this way you kind of are really playing you're sort of really playing and having a great time and doing something with a product that you love, right? Which is a,
Yeah, I
in
mean,
this
there is
case,
still work involved. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, and then
of
you have
course,
to
but it's much
find the
more
money and
manageable
kind of
to
like,
go from
shuffle things
beginning to
around, like,
end.
maybe take from your savings, move around until the sales come out. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a good way, like you said, to have a little pressure. Because like again, the investment is not that huge. I mean, for example, if you do like a big run, like a big company, I mean, there's many like small what is called fashion brands, like movement watches, like Nixon, like, well, forget about Timex, that's a huge corporation. But I mean, these people, they have to produce tens of thousands per month to keep up with supply. So now it's kind of like, it's a serial thing, basically. But when you do smaller batches, it's less capital, less stress, less movement. Like, because sooner or later, I mean, if you don't sell this month, you're going to sell in the next one. If not, well, it'll take 3 months, but you're going to sell them all because they're at a good price, and people, like, once they discover, they will purchase. So
Right.
yeah, it's a really good way to kind of also, like, like you said, if you want to dip your toes into entrepreneurship, find something that you kind of like, find something that has a small niche, do a limited run, see how you like it, see how you like the vibe, see how you like dealing with the suppliers, dealing with the customers, whether maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. There's a lot of things also that people have to understand, that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And at the same time, there's no shame in that. I mean, like,
Yeah,
some
you have
people
to try
have
it. I
very, very
agree. I mean,
profitable jobs. I mean, there's a lot of people that make, like, at the regular job, 80, 90, $150,000 at a regular job. And some entrepreneurs are barely breaking 50 grand. So, like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
So they
there's
totally
nothing
full
wrong if you don't. But I
perspective.
mean, but if you want to try it out, this is a great way to do it, because, like, again, you're talking limited capital investment, limited time, limited projection, but it gets you very up to speed on all the elements of having a business now:
Running a
social
business.
media,
Yes.
web design, marketing, supply fulfillment, all these little packaging, going to the post office, and it creates and gives you a good understanding of everything that it's involved.
Entails to
And
run a business, correct.
absolutely.
So, I mean, I know it sounds like you've done a several runs of this. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the lessons that you think you have learned that are helping you with this time around? That like it sounds like you learned your lesson. Like you had a platform with emails that looks like you lost it, and so that's a lesson learned, right? Because right now, if you would have had that platform, you would have probably over 1,000 emails that you could be sending and saying like,
Yeah, at least there were
by the
like
way.
800 or something. So basically, out of then, I think the rule is 10% out of an email list, or 5%. So I would have sold already 100 watches.
Exactly, it is 10%. They is 10,
Yeah,
and they say that if you I mean, this is something that I've heard from other marketing gurus, that for every email that you have in your portfolio with appropriate advertising and marketing, you should be able to earn $1 per month
right,
per email.
right.
So having said that, yes, like, yeah, I mean, if you lost it, I mean, but again, this is your hobby, so you're not too stressed over it. It's not like you're trying to
No, it
like
happens. I
create
mean,
the but so again, that takes the stress out and it makes it fun, right?
mhm,
Because you don't have to worry about it.
right.
But so what lessons would you say that you have learned from the first round versus, that are helping you be more efficient this time around?
Well, one of the things that I've learned is, of course, like, check your suppliers, make sure, like, you run some tests, make sure, like, ask for samples, always ask for samples. I mean, like, that's one of the most crucial things. I mean, you go on a website, you see a photograph, it's the best they have, and then when you
Right.
receive the product, it's like, it's not the same thing. So basically, vet your suppliers if you're going to be doing large runs like this, especially stuff that integrates design and conceptual images. And then also, like, make sure you have, like, the appropriate capital to start the business. The problem is, like, being a low success is a problem, but being a big success is a bigger problem, because the thing is that, like, if you get overwhelmed by orders, remember, you have to fabricate the watches first before you can make the thing. So not only are you basically having, like, capital intensive situation, you also have a time situation. So what happens most of the time is that it happened a couple of times to me, and I was able to kind of manage it. But I mean, what you do most of the time is that you be frank with the clients. Hey, listen, we were very grateful. We have an oversupply, supply. Like, your product is going to take a little bit of months, but here, have these like extra straps, like, as a bonus gift, or give them
Oh,
something
so
like
you
to compliment
you
for the
gave
weight.
you
Yeah,
but you had
a little
to
gift or something to
but
kind
you
of
had
compliment
to
them for the
use
weight.
that. Okay. So you had to kind of look into your budget to include something to complement it, that way the customer will stay be happy while they were waiting for the product.
Exactly, like, something
So
that
it,
you can
it
kind
still
of
cost you
use in
money
case that
even though you
happens.
kept them happy.
Exactly. And sometimes, like, clients are clients. I mean, everybody is entitled to their own thing. I mean, like, when I had a problem that I had to wait like 30, 35 days for the watch run, I think 10 to 50% dropped their orders. But still, that was a great success. A lot of people were because they really liked the watch. It was a really good value. Again, it was a limited production. Not everybody has it. So things like, I basically I talked to some actually one client that bought like a human time project a while ago, got in touch with me through Facebook and says, I still wear your watch and people still ask me about it. And this is like probably like what, 9 years ago? Because that's the thing. When things are limited, you can't find them anywhere.
Right,
So,
that's
and
true.
once the production is stopped, it's stopped. It becomes a collector item. So, so like, so one of the things, so
So it
that
sounds
again,
like you have you make it sound so much fun. You sound like this is such a cool thing. Like you're having a great time. It seems to have a great vibe. It's almost like it almost makes you want to get one just because it's almost like you
be part of the
feel
club.
you're part of the club. Yes, you feel like
Yeah, you're in
okay.
the in crowd. Yeah,
It's like so I'm like, oh
you
my God,
got a
isn't this
maritime watch.
I
Well,
can
that's the thing
totally
about it
see this.
also,
Like,
like,
isn't this cool? This guy only makes 250 watches and I got
well, you
one of
see
them. And
that is a great conversation piece. You're in like, you're in basically like, you're in a client meeting or you're basically meeting some friends at the bar after work or whatever. And they ask about the watch. Yeah, actually, this is a really cool brand. It's a micro brand. The owner only makes a certain
okay,
limited amount
so tell me,
of
what's the
watches.
website
If you don't
again?
buy them, you have to wait until next year. So it creates a whole aura that you have something that not everybody has.
Right. And it's affordable for what you're telling me. So this is
That's
pretty
the thing
incredible.
also. I wanted to be again, I basically I should probably trademark it, but I mean I'm coining like, affordable exclusivity because the problem is that when you talk about affordability, it means you can get it anytime, mass production. But then when you talk about exclusivity, you're talking about high entry level, expensive products. So if you get able to combine those two things, it's basically a first come first serve. So the first lucky duck gets it. Then after that, you're done. So
That is so much fun.
it's not like basically like it's a chore. You just have to be attentive to when the product drops and get it as soon as possible. But it's not that you're going to strain your bank and you're going to have something that's going to be much more rare than a Rolex.
Amazing. So this is so again, what is the website again for those who
The
might be
website
driving?
is Maritime, Maritime dash watches, maritimewatches.com.
Okay.
And
And
we're
we'll
going to
have it
have
on the notes
the,
as well. We'll have it
yeah,
on the notes for people who might just want
perfect.
to
Yeah,
go
because I
there.
mean, it's a little bit of a long of a
Yeah,
tongue
but
twister. But yeah,
for
once
those
you
who are
click
driving,
and
are
you put in
curious, they
like,
might be able to Google it and find it. But
yeah,
so I wanted to say thank you again for joining us today. We were able to fit you in for the early December spot. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
if you are listening to this podcast and in December, I'm sure you might be able to snag one if you happen to listen to this podcast after the fact. I would
Or if you're
highly
on
recommend
TikTok or
you
like,
to make sure you subscribe to his email because then you'll know he most likely will show up with something different and unique. We don't know when because it's meant to be a surprise. But
yeah,
it sounds like you're not going to be inundated with emails from him either. It sounds like he'll only get when he actually has something fun to share with you. So that might be a great way to kind of stay in the loop because it sounds like these projects are kind of fun. And so, anyhow, thank you, Gus. Is there any last words you would like to share with people before we let you go? And we'll make sure that we have in the notes your social media handles, the TikTok shop, and your website. And
appreciate that.
since you mentioned also the movies the movie projects you're
Yeah, the
working,
movie right now
we'll
is
also put
currently
those on
is
the
currently
notes
on
as well.
Tubi. Yeah, it's currently on Tubi, so people can watch right now. And then look for next year my new movie, Baby Racer. So
Okay.
that's another racing movie. But yeah, one last thought I like to give out to people is that if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, don't think about it. Try something. Do something minimal. Just put yourself out there. Do something little. Find stuff out there. Because I was reading this one quote, is that, and then I kind of think about it, and it made a lot of sense. I said, there were never any millionaires made by saving. You have to take risks. You have to go out there. You have to invest. You have to put some money. I mean, like, you have to kind of go out there and look for it. I mean, Jeff Bezos, like, spent years and years losing money until he finally got that one big contract with the government for web servers or whatever. And the whole thing boosted. But if he would have given up in the first 4 or 5 years, it wouldn't exist. So the thing is like, take a risk. I mean, everybody knows the risk tolerance, so I'm not saying do anything crazy, but the thing is that like, if you don't take any risks, you're not going to go anywhere. So
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. And we have talked with other business owners that, the biggest barrier that a lot of us who are thinking about launching is we want to be ready to launch and you're never ready. You just have to launch and then you learn as you go because sometimes if you try to be ready, you're going to be ready for something that maybe is not even applicable, because once you're out in the
Absolutely.
field, you realize, oh crap, this is not working the way I thought it was going to do. And then you have to pivot. Like for me, like I'm a bookkeeper. I've been
Mhm.
out in social media, and I'm learning that there's a huge gap with small business owners that are making between 100 and 150,000 who cannot quite afford a bookkeeper yet, right? But
Mhm.
they still need support with their books. And
Right.
so I have created this membership in which we meet weekly. They do their own books. They pay a nominal fee. Right now, I think it's at
But they
47.
have the expertise and they have the advice on
They have
certain areas how
supported,
to make
because
things
the
proper.
platforms for bookkeeping are very confusing, and it's almost like learning how to use Word or Excel. If you're not in it every week, you forget how to use that platform. But I didn't know this need really existed until I started doing all these social media things, because all of
Exactly.
my
And like I
former
said, you have to go
clients
out there.
were all established businesses that were making at least $200,000 a year, and they just needed to delegate it out. And that's the niche and the people I've been working for a long time. But then I realized, wait, but how do I help people who are making 150 make it to the 250 so they can then outsource it?
Right.
If they don't know their numbers, they cannot make that leap.
Right. And the
But
funny thing is that sometimes even if you're making 180 or 200,000 or 150, you can still outsource. The thing is that you have to understand what are your needs.
my point here is, you don't know what you don't know until you get into the field and you're actually engaging with people, with potential clients.
Absolutely.
And as you go, the product changes, your services will change, because you're going to try to meet the needs of the clients in general. So that is the message we want to send out. Thank you guys for joining us. I wish you the best during this holiday season. I hope
Thank you so
you
much,
have
Patricia.
all of those watches be gone by, I hope everybody that wants one gets one, but I also hope that you are
Yeah,
able
we're going to have
to
an initial
go out
run
of
on what.
be able to be out of supply sooner than we want you to, because success is always a wonderful thing. So
Yes.
again, thank you guys and have a great time, and to all of my listeners, we'll see you on the next show.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the Book of Balance podcast. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights we shared. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss a future episode. And as promised during the show, you'll also find a link in the description with today's guest information, website links, and all the mentions we talked about during the episode. And if you're a do-it-yourself entrepreneur, you can join the Clarity Compass method at claritycompassllc.com. It's a monthly subscription where business owners like you dedicate just 1 hour each week to work in their books, get their questions answered, and stay consistent with their support of a community committed to financial clarity. Now, if you'd like to connect with me personally, head on to my website, oholeguy.com, to schedule your complimentary 15-minute consultation. It's the perfect way to get your personalized bookkeeping questions answered and explore how the white glove services can support your business. And on the last note, remember, we are not lawyers or financial advisors. Everything shared here reflects our professional opinions and is provided solely for educational purposes and entertainment purposes only. So thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep your compass set on clarity.